the Fishers, the
They are
founders.
the founders. That is a beautiful picture.
Right.
Okay.
It's Zachary.
That's the founders. Remember I was
That's the
asking about
founders.
whose
Zachary and
picture is that?
Elizabeth.
Oh, the
Fisher.
founders, yeah.
Right.
Zachary and
Well,
Elizabeth.
they're both gone, of course, you know. they
And
started it.
Beautiful.
where did they start the first Fisher House?
32 years, oh, where?
where?
Walter Reed.
Walter Reed? Oh, okay, yeah.
Now there are 5 Fisher houses at Walter Reed.
Aren't they building one in, up in Lovell?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, see, that's what
They
I
break
thought.
ground in about 2 months.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, what, June?
Yeah, they're tentative for June. This is the story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The property belonged to the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously it's within the confines of Forest Hill Village housing area. And when they requested the Fisher House, one of the stipulations is that they provide anywhere from 2.5 to 3 acres of land. So they gave us 2.5 acres up there at the corner of Buckley and Meridian, if you're familiar with it. It's right across from the golf course. Okay. So what they've done now at this point is the VA has title to the property, 2.5 acres. It's actually within, it's kind of surrounded by the Navy property, Forest Hill Village housing area. So what they've done now is the Fisher House Foundation has made an offer to build the Fisher House. This is very codified. They've been doing this for 32 years. So there's a very detailed step-by-step process. And so they've made the offer to the VA to build the Fisher House, even though, of course, that was already agreed to many years ago. And we're still waiting for the VA to accept the proffer. The VA is kind of pokey. So, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so the offer's out there, and we expect they're going to make, they're going to accept the offer to build. And then once they do that, then the VA has to put in the infrastructure on the property. They got to put in the water, the sewer, the electricity, but some of it's already in there because this is actually a site that's been used before.
Okay, so there
So
are
some of it's already in
active
there.
lines running through there already.
Yeah, for the most part, they're gonna have to enlarge, the sanitation lines and so forth. So once they've done that, then they deed the property over to the Fisher House Foundation in Rockville, Maryland. They come out with their contractors, they hire subcontractors, they build the house, takes 1 year. And once it's up and they get the certificate of occupancy, then they deed it back to either the VA or the DOD. This would be a VA-run house. Just like the hospital up there. Well, you're right, like this one. But just like the hospital up there, they'll be taking in both. They'll take in active duty and veterans and families, not just veterans, not just active duty. So essentially, of the 92 Fisher houses, about an even split between DOD houses and VA houses. Are those James? No.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay.
I was looking for Jane.
He's out of the building right now, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
Okay.
wondering about returning this to the.
You can give it.
Just,
you can give it to Rob there.
take the, this is, you keep that.
So
but
it's about an even split between the 92 houses, about an even split between DOD houses and VA houses. And they have slightly different stipulations. Again, the VA says you have to live more than 50 miles away from a Fisher House in order to access the Fisher House. The DOD says 40 miles. We don't know why the difference is, but that's up to them because they're running the houses. But beyond that, once the house is deeded back to the VA or the DOD, they pretty much run the house. But they run it all using a formula, for lack of a better term, so that they're all, it's like going into a Walgreens, they're all prototypical, everything's run the same way. The employees are either all DOD or they're all VA employees. So,
And that's what I was gonna ask you from, so when they do a floor plan to the next Fisher House in Lovell, would they take the same floor plan here and everything like a McDonald's and everything will be built
Exactly
and
right.
Walgreens?
Exactly
the same, you
They're
walk in, you
prototypical,
go to the left,
yeah.
it's all one plan, master plan, they don't have to go back and,
pretty much, within reason. Now, it's gonna be a 16-suite house, this is a 20-suite house.
oh, why
And
so low? Because up there is a need.
Well, there is a
Because
need, but
there is a larger
I'll give you the real quick
occupancy.
backstory on that. The Fisher House Foundation has gone to all 16 suite houses now. There actually are 3 under construction right now, with 2 more on the planning board. That's just per year. They usually crank out between 3 and 5 new Fisher houses every year. So that's on the planning board. But yeah, the houses are prototypical. Even on the inside, they're prototypical. Only thing that changes up is like wallpaper or things like that. Furnishings are a little bit different. If you go to Fisher House at, say, Lackland Air Force Base, they look a little bit different because they try to match the outside to the existing structures on the base, because they're actually located on the base at Lackland. So they kind of tie into the existing type of architecture. Now the inside looks pretty much the same. That's prototypical, just because they've got a good layout and they're master planners. They're master contractors. They know how to do it. So they don't have to reinvent the wheel every time they make a Fisher House. So now the exception to that is if you go west of the Mississippi, the outside appearance of the house changes up based on local architecture. Now everything east of the Mississippi, and most of the houses are east, well not most, but quite a few of them, look like this on the outside as well as the inside. So the only reason that they change it up out west is just to try to match the architecture. If you're familiar with Brooke Army Medical Center at Fort Sam Houston,
No.
in San Antonio, okay, that's the Army base. You got the Air Force, you got the Army. So the Fort Sam has 4 Fisher houses at Brooke Army Medical Center, because that's where people go when they're injured in the sandbox.
And the bird museum is over there too.
Exactly right. Yeah, so that's why they have 4 Fisher houses. So anyway, the answer, that's a long way of getting around the answer to the question, but the question is, why a 16 suite house? Because they're more flexible that way. For example, Walter Reed has 5 Fisher houses, the smallest being 6 suites, very small. And then from that point, they climb up to a 20 suite, but they have other houses in the interim.
Okay.
And what they do is they open and close those houses on demand. So it allows them flexibility to do that. And they're not the only place that has 4 or 5 houses, quite a few other places. Richmond, for example, has 3. Lackland has 3. Quite a few of the bases in Florida have 3 or 4 houses. So it's all based on demand.
And
Now,
you mentioned something about closing. The word closing?
Closing as in
Closing the, locking the front door.
oh yeah, right. Physically, yeah, they actually physically shut
And
down.
what would that be? To make room for a large capacity from a 6 to 16 or 20?
Right, so it allows them flexibility. And this is Walter Reed. They're still taking in. They're still the A team for taking in injured soldiers from everywhere, the Gulf and anywhere else for that matter. And so, because they're what's called they're actually I lost the term in my head. Don't film me.
A senior moment. I've been there.
Right. Anyway,
not very often.
It's based on
Not
it's
as often
based
as
on
you.
it's based on the kind of services they offer.
I'm joking with you.
Right, so it's based on the kind of services they offer. So if they have more services like here, they just started doing kidney transplants just about half a year ago.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Right,
Yeah.
so you can see that people are coming in from everywhere. We get them from all over the place, actually, including the Philippines, actually. So what's going to happen up there at Lovell is tentatively they're going to build a 16 suite, and then they may put in a small Fisher house behind it because they'll have the extra space to do that. That's not codified yet. They haven't decided. They definitely are going to build a 16 suite. And then from there, if they need to, they'll bump it out a little bit and put a smaller house behind it. So, but that's all relative to how things develop.
But first they have to get to go on the 16th, right? To build that one.
So we're just waiting at
Small
this
one.
point, right? Just waiting for the VA. So, right. And they will accept the proffer. I mean, they're the ones that actually requested the house. So, yeah. So this is the library, and it looks like a library. There's obviously no TV, and it's meant to be the quiet room.
Okay.
People come here, they write letters, they just sit and talk. Lots of these folks, I mean, you're a nurse, you understand that there's a lot of tension involved, they're coming in, and there's a lot of anticipation about their procedures, and so they like to have a quiet area where they can come. Throughout the house, you'll find things that are set up for kids. They don't get, because it is a VA Fisher house, they don't get a whole lot of kids. They do have kids coming through here on occasion, but for the most part, they're older vets, and so everything is geared toward that. If you go into a DOD house, they have a bigger play area for kids. They may even have a playground behind the Fisher house, that sort of thing. So the playground here is the gazebo out back. That's for the older crowd.
I saw that one. Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. What time do you keep track of your time? So
yeah, you've got about 7 minutes. So,
So you gotta talk fast.
so there are wings on both ends. Those are the rooms, the suites. And once James comes back, we'll get you into a room real quick and you can see it. Then upstairs, also they're all suites up here. Right, so these are all suites up there, there's the only common areas are the common sitting areas and then, and of course, you know,
Are we all one bedroom or?
no, they're not, actually, some are, the biggest ones will accommodate 6 people with rollaway beds.
Okay,
So
so,
be able to accommodate 4 and then 2 rollaway beds.
so they're all in later on, it's just typical bedrooms then?
Yeah, you'll be able to see that, but, right, so. Yep. And so there, you know, common sitting areas up here, if you just want to sit and relax. The common areas are open 24/7. Everybody has access to their own room with their key card. This is obviously a closet.
Closet. Thank you for the term.
This is where they store the rollaway beds, the linens from the second floor, just like pretty much like a hotel. And again, there's suites on this side. And again, some of these are single, with a single bed, some have 2 beds, some have 2 beds in a room for rollaway beds as well. They just redid the wallpaper, actually, in prison about it. It's kind of metallic, kind of like alligator type stuff in there.
Texture. And how do they come up with the picture designs? I know
Well, that's a good question.
Doesn't look like anything close enough to
They're
veterans related.
they're not, and there's a reason behind that. I'll give you the quick answer on that one, but these are all from Sicily or Italy. You can probably tell that from looking at them, but there's no connection to the Fisher family in terms of that kind of background. But they chose that just as kind of a background motif. Well, the reason that you don't see any overt military signs, memorabilia, is because the intent is to keep this a comfortable home. They're going to be getting their care at the VA or the DoD hospitals. They're going to see enough of the military and the VA side of it. So the idea is to make this as neutral as possible. And it is.
And as of today, what's your capacity for the 16 rooms? How many rooms do you
I have 20 suites here.
20 here and how many are?
It's 44 is the overall number they can take in.
Okay.
Is it, they're under the same rules any other outfit would be, so 44 is the max. But
And what's your capacity as of today, next year?
I think they have 16 of the
16
suites occupied right now.
16 of the suite of the 20, huh?
Of the 20, right.
Oh,
Which is
that's
not
pretty good, almost.
There are times when they actually will have more than the number of rooms that they have available, at which point then they have contracts for overflow in area hotels. What you do is you stay there until someone checks out, and then you get segued right into a room from there. So bottom line is nobody's ever turned away. And if you qualify for care, if you qualify to stay at a Fisher House, and you come to the Fisher House and you're scheduled to be here, you may end up in a hotel which is on par with the Fisher House. They don't put you in anything that's like a dive.
You don't have any contracts or subsidiary understanding with McDonald House?
We don't.
No.
Actually, what they use are local
But theirs
hotels.
mostly is for Loyola? The
Sorry?
people that stay over there?
Yeah.
McDonald House?
That's for Loyola, right? That's
For
connected to
Loyola.
Loyola, right? But see, that's the whole point. Ronald McDonald House is a much larger network than Fisher Houses are, but there was no provision made for military or veteran families because DoD and VA hospitals don't have Ronald McDonald Houses. So that's what they created Fisher House for.
So how did they actually give that property or piece of land to, that's VA property, right?
It
Government
is.
property?
In fact, all of Loyola is sitting on VA property.
But
They have a 100-year lease.
But what about the McDonald House? How did they
Same
get
thing.
that property?
Oh, the same thing, they just petitioned for it, and, you know, because we have veterans who get care at Loyola, it was a natural extension.
Oh, that's what I was asking. Okay, so
Right.
they can stay there.